Has a family ever had a worse cinematic run than Marvel's first family? Sure, it's not as bad as, say, the Stark family, but it's been a pretty rough couple of decades for them. Have we ever actually gotten a good Fantastic Four film? The family just can't catch a break outside the page. It appears to be an impossible task to make this family of superheroes work. But it's a big week for the Incredible Family. The MCU have finally released their Fantastic Four film in first steps. And more importantly, the Fantastic Four skins are coming to Fortnite on Friday. So now is the perfect time to revisit every Fantastic Four film, ask and answer the question, are they really all that bad? Is there some redeeming aspects to these films? Or is it maybe just a property that needs to stay in comic book form? Ranking and reviewing every Fantastic Four film, worst to best. Number 6, Fan Four Stick. This film is incredible. Incredibly bad. Yet, incredibly interesting in how bad it is. This film is such a strange, unique cinematic experience. The idea of a body horror take on Marvel's first family is legitimately a great idea. It's a classic this era take. Dark, gritty, and intense. The powers viewed through this lens is such a fascinating idea. The Fly, but superheroes is a great pitch. Too bad this is explored for exactly 3 minutes of this 2-hour film. Instead, what we get is maybe the dullest, lamest, and bare-bones film that barely does enough to be considered a film. Which is impressive how little happens, considering it also feels like 3 different films mashed together. The only part I liked was that they got drunk and jumped into another dimension. I particularly liked that when they entered the new dimension, they sobered up immediately. Classic. We open with a baffling opening act that involves teachers dismissing the greatest scientific fair exhibit any child has ever done. But maybe the teacher just, I don't know, hates these kids because they look freakishly old for their age. Which actually, now I think about it, is totally fair. If I taught in this bizarre mishmash of modern schools of actual kids mixed with Smallville-style, age 20-something kids, I would also probably go mad and dismiss the scientific achievement of the century and think it's more of that dark magic that presumably created this perversion of cinematic schools that I work in. If the color palette wasn't enough, we hammer home this gritty retelling of the Fantastic Four with a dark recontextualization of the classic "It's clobberin' time" line. Now it's the bully brother who says it whilst he bashes his brother for no reason. Fun stuff. The Thing is a murderer. Once again, like all things in this film, this could have been an interesting take had they actually given it any time to breathe and committed to this horror lens they briefly attempted. Also, it says he has 43 confirmed kills. Feels unnecessary to actually show the number. I don't know, maybe they thought it was fun to count the kills, you know, Legolas and Gimli style. Doom is disgusting to look at, which, had this film actually committed to the body horror angle, would have potentially worked really well. But since we have devolved into classical superhero film by this third act appearance, it's just an abomination to the eyes. Also, what are his powers? Why are they so vague and all-encompassing? I don't understand. Why can't they get Doom right? The end line of this film gets a lot of hate, rightfully so. But I think a more egregious line is very early in the film, in which Sue says, "Bloody Dr. Doom over here," to Doom after he says something morbid. What? He's not a doctor. What are you talking about, Sue? A genuine laugh-out-loud moment that is, potentially the only funny and joyous moment of the film. Reshoots are common. And an underrated art form is the makeup and hair artists who recreate characters' looks so you never notice the pickups or reshoots. These artists are unseen heroes. And then sometimes, for whatever reason, these artists want to be seen. They feel unheard, I suppose, and so want people to know they were here, like a dog pissing on a tree. And apparently these reshoot hairstylists wanted to mark their territory by giving Sue a wig that is a completely different color to her original hair. I love the idea that nobody on set at this stage cared or noticed. Or if they did, they just shrugged and went, yeah, I don't know, I guess they'll fix it in post. Magical stuff. legit feels like an intentional parody, like it's a Naked Gun skit. The only way you could have made these reshoots look more obvious is if you had just recast Sue. Overall, a terrible film that is easily the worst Fantastic Four film, which, considering the output of films for these poor guys, is saying a lot. Number 5, The Fantastic Four 1994. Charming, quaint, and cheesy in a way that only a low-budget film with heart and soul can have. Somehow as bad as I expected, but with some pleasantly surprising, inventive creativity to maximize the minimal budget. I had extremely low expectations for this film. I'd heard that this film was not officially released. I thought presumably because it was just that bad. But apparently not so. It's still pretty bad though, to be fair. Apparently it was never intended to be released. And so the film itself has a lot of unexpected effort and vision and soul in it than I expected. From a cast and crew who were tragically not aware this was destined to be trashed from the get-go. This film has got the most accurate Doom costume I've ever seen in live action, which is insane. Doom is chewing scenery like it's his last meal on Earth and he wants to savor every last mouthful. And he is doing a lot of hand acting. He's waving those hands about like his hands have been cast as the bus in a Speed remake. The Thing looks amazing. A fantastic animatronic mouth that looks like it must have cost the entire budget. I think practical Thing just has a sincerity about it that fits the tragedy of the character a bit better than giant CGI rock monster does. At least for me personally. I can connect to the sad, human loneliness of the character more. The stretchy man effect has never looked good. But in this film, they had exactly 62 cents for the stretching effect, so they had to use old school backyard filmmaking techniques to pull off the effects. And honestly, it was some of the best stuff in the film, as it had this energy, charm, and tangible homemade quality to it. It made it so this film didn't have the issue of the effects feeling uncanny valley or just gross and fake and lame, but utterly goofy, funny, charming, and of course, utterly hilarious. I really enjoyed a lot of this on a production side, seeing how a bunch of creatives tackled the challenge of such a high concept idea with so little money. But also, it's pretty bad, and a lot of it is very shit. Number 4, Rise of the Silver Surfer. Significantly worse than the previous film. The first act of this film is just Sue Storm having a massive sook about Reed Richards prioritizing saving lives and the planet over their wedding. This film loses points, it didn't have to lose, for wasting a third of the film on offensively cliche stereotypes of its only female character that blatantly undermines women and reduces Sue to a crying bridezilla. Embarrassing stuff. But at least they don't, once again, randomly get her naked for no reason with a half-assed invisibility excuse. Oh, wait. Never mind. Silver Surfer looks cool, and he does some very cool chase stuff with Johnny. He also has a flashback storytelling screen in his belly, Teletubbies style. Morpheus is a great Silver Surfer voice, and even though it implies he could have saved countless entire worlds from genocidal death via Big Hungry Cloud at literally any time by exploding the way he does, I don't hate that he's humanized by Sue Storm. Galactus is a cloud, and that's not cool. I would have been very curious to see a big purple man with the effects of the time. Considering The Thing is so practical, I wonder what kind of visual we could have gotten from that. The Thing, once again, looks great. The film's at its best, once again like one, when it's having fun with the family dynamic and Johnny and Ben are having fun together. Pretty funny that Johnny does a big super scroll for the final fight when he punches on with radical surfer Doom. The man just wanted a sweet board to hit the waves with, bro. Let the man gnarly out. Cap is once again great as Johnny and the highlight of the film. He has an arc in this film, which shouldn't in and of itself impress me, But hey, here we are. Stretchy powers have never looked good, but at least this film has some fun with them. That dance scene at the club was an iconic part of superhero culture. Along with Superman 3, it was a big few years for superhero dance moves. A bad film that has some fun little moments, but overall doesn't have the heart, soul, and tragedy of one. And also doesn't have that psycho early 2000s radical energy, despite featuring an anti-hero who rides a surfboard. Number 3, 2005's Fantastic Four. Maybe the most early 2000s a film could be. Snowboarding, a prank montage, and a soundtrack I can only describe as radical, dude. Kinda love this film despite its many glaring flaws. I would go as far as to say it's incredible. Now sure, nostalgia and play on words may have a part to play in my rating for this film, but I do genuinely think this has some great stuff. Cap is a great, cocky ladies' man. The chemistry in this cast is amazing. But the real strength of this film is that despite its mostly light, comedic and fun vibe, there's a deep sadness and tragedy to the Thing and his transformation into this rock monster. A lot of genuine pathos and heart, and it's really tragic. It really surprised me on this rewatch how effective it all was. I always hated that chick from The Walking Dead, but I always thought it was because of The Walking Dead. You know, being terrible. But maybe it was residual hatred from her abandoning Ben post-thingification. Sure, the rock dick is gonna take some getting used to, but it could be worse. It could be way worse. Number 2, The Fantastic Four: First Steps. I was so not keen for this film based off the trailers. Aesthetically, it looked incredible, but the cast, the humor, the vibe, and the general plot did nothing to grab me. Happy to report, the first half of this film kinda blew me away. I was utterly charmed by everything I was dubious about. The cast has great chemistry. The family dynamic is center stage and very strong and emotional. Heart for days. Whilst the humor isn't necessarily laugh out loud funny, it's fun and charming and doesn't pull a Thor Ragnarok, undermining any key emotional moments. The focus of this film is science and brains over the actual superpowers of the Fantastic Family. If one studio could do live action stretchy abilities, it's the MCU. But I guess not. I guess it's a fixed point in the multiverse that stretchy abilities always look jank as fuck in live action, cause Reed looks like rubbery balls. He also doesn't do anything weird with his powers, he just stretches. Probably the least inventive of any of the live action Reeds we have gotten power-wise. But as someone who's totally sick of Pedro in literally every show, and I didn't see him as Reed at all, he was incredible in this, and he was a great Reed. He completely sold it, and his chemistry with Vanessa Kirby was electric. But also, it felt very grounded and real. Johnny is great and funny and gets a little mini arc which was fun, and just like in Rise, there's a great chase scene with him and the surfer, but in a very new and fun way. That was probably the most thrilling and visually exciting scene in the movie. Even though I still think practical The Thing has a bit more humanity, I loved The Thing in this, even if emotionally I didn't get much from him. But hey, it's been 4 years of them Fantastic Fouring about before this movie, and I guess he's come to terms with being this big rock monster, so that's nice that he's not sad. So I have a couple of complaints and issues with the film that kind of let it down for me, but they are completely spoilery, so time codes below, skip ahead if you don't want to know spoilers. 3, 2, 1, spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. Sue has a baby in this film, and I wish I cared more about that, but anytime I tried to emotionally connect with the baby, it would go CGI on my ass, and I just fucking hated that shit. I honestly wish Galactus had just eaten that damn CGI baby. Horror show stuff. Sexy Lady Silver Surfer is amazing. She actually surfs on like space lava and space stuff. She's surfing on all kinds of cosmic-y things and stuff. It's rad as hell, dude. Galactus is big and scary and amazing. Until the third act, in which he's a massive bitch and they kick his ass so easily, it's embarrassing. Kang beaten by Ant-Man, embarrassing. I legit feel like I could take him. When he falls into that portal at the end, I felt secondhand cringe for him. What a loser. I can't believe he ate any planets. He's such a poser. Kinda lets the whole film down for me a bit, because there's this really amazing Lovecraftian cosmic horror to the whole film. But then at the end, it's just this semi-big guy who gets pushed into a hole. It's a strange end. I just found it to be a bit of an underwhelming and disappointing end to the film. The film was so focused on the characters and the emotion and the humanity, and there was so little action in the film that once we got to the big battle at the end, it was kind of like, oh, this isn't that compelling or interesting. And I kind of just wonder if maybe there was a different way to do this, and he just kind of lost all of that awe and power and horror that he had previously built up so effectively. Overall, really great fun, compelling and interesting, loved it a lot, until it kind of lost me at the end. But it won me back with a nothing post-credit scene that teases shit we already know about. I love the collective groan of a packed audience as they realize it's a mid-credit scene in more ways than one. Number 1, The Incredibles. This film is fantastic. It's not only the best Fantastic Four film, not only the best Pixar film, but also maybe the best Watchmen film we will ever get. A transcendent film that feels like a modern deconstruction and critique and satire of superheroes. They get sued, they get cancelled, they get hated, and then they get murdered. It's fantastically mature and grounded and intense and sad. But it is also somehow, without feeling tonally jarring or messy, a joyously fun superhero film with a delightful 60s spy vibe mixed in for good measure. This film is such an adult film about sad dads in dead-end jobs, wives thinking their husbands are having an affair, but also just very silly and funny. The capes gag and then pay off, god tier stuff. This film has some of the most iconic, quotable lines in any film, and they're all from Frozone. That man is an iconic quote printing machine. Another thing this film does is that it isn't afraid to push the heroes into very dark places. Mr. Incredible goes to choke and kill a woman when he thinks his family's been exploded. But back to the fun stuff. Dash's laugh when he realizes he can run on water lives in my head rent-free. There are some absolutely fantastic set pieces displaying their powers. I love how everybody gets solo moments and then fantastic team-up scenes. This film ran so the MCU could also run. Stretchy powers just never work in live action. But hot damn, do they work in animation so good. The creativity and inventive madness on display with Elastigirl is some of the best superhero powers stuff ever committed to film. Syndrome is one of the all-time great villains. Tragic, understandable, but also, fuck that guy. His line about how after he sells all of his inventions and everyone's special, no one will be, is deeply profound and sad. A world in which a select few have magic powers would create so many bitter and miserably jealous people. Every single line of dialogue has such weight and purpose, and everything pays off so beautifully. Also, if you're wondering where would Incredibles 2 be, I didn't want to put it earlier because I was like, I guess it'll be a little fun reveal to be like, oh, the best Fantastic Four film is The Incredibles. Haha, do you get it? So yeah, number 2, I don't know, I'd put it like number 2 or 3, or maybe 4 or something. I don't know, I don't like it. I rewatched it and I'm like, it looks very pretty and that baby is very funny, but yeah, something about it, just the magic is gone. Thanks for watching, guys. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and comment below. I would love to know what's your ranking for the Fantastic Four franchise.